I'm Dr. Johanna Lynch, and I'm asking the question, is multimorbidity iatrogenic? This work is built on the work of many generalist researchers over decades who've influenced my ideas and practice. What if we thought of the person as an interconnected organism like a tree? The leaves could symbolize signs, symptoms, behaviors, and test results, while the branches could symbolize the organs that are cared for by specific disciplines. They're beautifully intricate, and they can be observed, measured, named, and studied using reductionist methodologies that exclude the variables of the rest of the tree. Studying the leaves and branches has led to life-changing medical breakthroughs, but has inadvertently turned disease into simplified objects to define and name, nouns of disorder. This spurious precision that defines the leaf of disease accurately without noticing the tree is the iatrogenic incoherence that is multimorbidity. Indigenous elder Puggy Hunter called this the body parts approach to health. It's an approach that some critique as an out-of-date disease era that leads to undertreatment, overtreatment, or mistreatment. Hand therapist Kielnhofner describes this objectification as a way that sees the body as alive but doesn't notice that it's lived. Meanwhile, below the leaves there are roots grounded in the soil of that environment and the compost of previous generations. Under the ground, hidden from easy observation, these roots are interconnected with the land and with other trees, accessible to research only when stories, life experience, meaning and context are considered data. And then we come to the trunk. It links the leaves and roots and holds hidden sap that flows. This sap could symbolize sensations flowing in and out of the nervous system, or feedback loops of the immune, endocrine and metabolic systems, or the microbiome. It could represent the stories, images, memories, perceptions, motivations, hopes and spirit of the person. This sap holds the hidden dynamics of healing and recovery, as well as the cues for early diagnosis and intervention. If we paid more attention to what's going on inside the trunk, would we end up with a more coherent way to understand morbidity? My doctoral research sought to look at the trunk, to find a dynamic in the ordinary words sense of safety. They emerged as a strength-based and physiologically grounded approach to the whole person in distress. I researched the questions, what causes threat and how do you sense that you're safe? And discovered the integrative domains and dynamics of sense of safety that linked life experience in the forest with physiological changes in the leaves. I consulted with multidisciplinary clinicians, patients, Indigenous academics, rural and urban GPs, and a wide transdisciplinary literature. I also discovered that my report from the Forest 4, as a practicing clinician, whose roots were in the same forest as those I cared for, was a rich form of evidence, not just anecdotal evidence as my reductionist training had schooled me to believe. International multidisciplinary advisors described the sense of safety approach as sorely needed, common sense and paradigm changing, but warned that it may be difficult to translate because it was out of the comfort zone of modern medicine. During my doctoral research, I discovered that generalists are uniquely skilled to discern the dynamics and patterns that contribute to health. Generalists spend their careers refining how to discern the links between the leaves, the different disciplinary branches, the roots, and the forest. They offer sophisticated pattern recognition, discernment, interpretation, and integration that is more than mixed methods juxtaposition. It's transdisciplinary knowledge management. Norwegian GP Lynn Getz calls this an underlying gestalt that we never learnt to recognize in medical school. The sophisticated skills of holding the whole tree are out of the comfort zone of modern biotechnical health policy and research. They're not valued. GPs are expected to perform them within health systems that reward 7-minute consultations. Primary care researchers are expected to notice them using funding and publication processes designed for reductionist leaf-observing methodologies. This devaluing of the generalist gaze is in part because those who use this craft of generalism are often unaware of its unique validity and scientific importance. In my title for this talk, I ask the slightly confronting question, is multimorbidity iatrogenic? Because I know both clinicians and researchers do not want to cause harm. It's part of why we don't want to stray too far from facts or evidence. But maybe we cause iatrogenic harm if we miss the bigger picture, if the focus on the leaves makes us think it is the whole, or we frantically name fragments because we're trying to find certainty. Maybe we cause harm if a patient sees themselves as a disparate list of diseases without a coherent story about how that connects them to the real place and people where they live. What if essential elements of healing are hidden in the trunk and they require generalist, not reductionist ways of valuing knowledge? Is it time for primary care to rise up and demand standards that ensure that research designed for primary care at the very least acknowledges the parts of the whole that it's not addressing? Is it time for clinicians to highly value their position in the forest and the evidence they bring to the table? As I speak to this amazing conference of researchers, I call for incentives that communicate respect and understanding of the unique place of generalist research. I draw our attention back to the trunk and the invisible sap within it. Let's become champions of the generalist gaze who do what Abraham Maslow calls wholehearted attending, not categorizing, who look not for nouns of disorder, but verbs of well-being. Let's reach towards the trunk of the tree to hold the person who holds the dynamics of healing within them.